Sorry, yes, Senator Sifuna.
Yeah, Chair, first of all, Governor, I am an increasingly very frustrated senator for the county of Nairobi. Because as you have mentioned yourself, there's quite a number of invitations that have been pending, and we are unable to have certain conversations with you. I am aware that we had scheduled meetings with the County Public Accounts Committee to look into the status of projects in the county. We had a meeting with the Devolution Committee, which you were invited as well, which you did not show up. County Public Investments Committee to look into the status of our hospitals, which you did not show up. Of course, there was the Education Committee on the question of ECDs. So there is such a big backlog of conversations that need to happen on this floor. And I feel that you have to find a way to show up more on the date of submission of documents and the number of copies to be submitted. Now, I'm looking at this, maybe Governor can confirm, are these the only copies that we all have to share, or there are copies enough for the committee? Number two, being tabled on the day of the meeting, Gatia, surely, how are we going to proceed and process all these documents?
Honorable Senator, I want to confirm that they tabled these documents on 17th to the clerk of the National Assembly of the Senate on 17th, and I think this is our internal doing. And since this is an inquiry, and most of those questions are straightforward, we'll just deal as I don't know whether you've been given our file, Ngatia, which has all the questions. So the governor will guide us through the answers, and you'll be guided also by the questions that we asked. So have you given Honorable Sifuna our file, our internal file? That is the set of the questions we asked. So I will now ask the governor to
Chair, maybe to comment on that just a little bit concerning the clerk of the committee. You should supply this information to the sitting senator. Immediately they are delivered, you know, the message, the responses are given to the committee. The sitting senator should receive them immediately so that they can go through them before they appear here. Thank you.
Very correct. Actually, I'm the one who noted, and I asked because I've been following whether the responses have come, and I'm the one actually who noted that the responses came on 17th as per. So, clerk, please, can you note that? It's very important so that the sitting senator can be able to verify that information and even guide the committee in case there's anything to be followed. So, Your Excellency, please, let's go to, you have to be taken on oath. Clerk.
Thank you. I don't know, how did you know I'm a Christian? I, Sakaja Arthur Johnson, do solemnly swear that the evidence that I shall give before this committee in respect of the matters before the committee shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Thank you. Thank you. Your Excellency, now let's go straight to the inquiry and lead us in your responses.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I take your direction and I note the concerns that have been raised. There are very many questions that have been asked. I will just read what we have, and where we need further clarification, allow me to have my CC, Brian Mulama, and Director of Education to support. The first question, Chair, is a list of public and private ECD centers indicating enrollment of the learners disaggregated by gender in PP1 and PP2 and by sub-county, a number of teachers by ECD center. Chair, we have 230 public ECD centers with an enrollment of 32,135 and 967 teachers. So close to 1,000 teachers, and we intend to recruit more of these teachers in the next financial year. There are approximately 839 private ECD centers with 2672 teachers. However, Chair, we do not have complete data of the private pre-primary schools, as registration is done by the County Education Board. These are matters we're dealing with the IGTRC, because these are devolved function. That really the regulating private ECDs is a function. It was unbundled in the last Gazette notice, but the instruments that follow have not yet been done by the Ministry of Education. And so we want the Senate support to make sure that this is fully moved to counties. I have attached in Annex 1 the list of these ECD centers, public and private. Second question, Chair, is on the number of public ECD centers.
Members, I urge that you note your observations and your queries so that we can forward them to him later.
Thank you, Chair. The number of public ECD centers located within primary schools, those are standalone and those are in informal settlements. Chair, we said 200 of these are domiciled in public primary schools and 30 standalone centers. There are 149 in informal settlements, and we've attached the list. And Chair, I'm sure you've dealt with this in many other counties. Nairobi is peculiar because the public primary schools are also owned by the county government in Nairobi. And so we consider the entire schools. It is not, we don't have ECD centers located in primary schools. We have primary schools located in our ECD centers because we own the title, that's our land. Number 3, it's a breakdown of the construction costs of ECD centers, other infrastructure within the center, and sample photos, which we have attached, BQs, architectural plans and photos. The costs vary, Chair, depending on different factors like terrain, soil, etc. Approximately 18 million. It ranges from even lower 11 million depending on the number of classes. But the standard one is 3 classrooms, an ablution block, an office, and a kitchen. Chair. The amount of fees charged per learner in public ECD centers, specifying contributions by parents and county government. Chair, we offer free pre-primary education to all learners enrolled in our public ECD centers. We disperse capitation grants to these centers. And I've annexed in Annex 4 the free ECD guidelines and the circular that upload charges to parents. Normally the capitation, Chair, is 100 million shillings. Chair, the transition rates from primary to secondary school and from secondary school to universities, our transition rate, Chair, is 100%. We have full transition, and we even have more children joining from other centers into our primary schools. We do not have the transition from primary to secondary schools officially, but I know it's also 100% in Nairobi because the secondary schools are fewer than the primary schools. But that's a mandate of the national government. Number 6 is the comprehensive details on teachers, the number per center, the qualifications, cadres, pay structure, salaries, terms of employment, teacher-pupil ratio, by ECD center, the teachers employed by parents, prioritized and transitioned to the county payroll during recruitment, indicating details of any refresher, retooling conducted for pedagogical skills development. Chair, all the pre-primary school teachers are employed by the county government under permanent and pensionable terms. Certificate holders employed at job group G, while diploma teachers are at job group H as per the ECD teacher scheme of service. Currently, Chair, the teacher-pupil ratio is 1:33. Our goal ideally is for it to be 1:25. Volunteer teachers who are working in public ECD centers were prioritized during the last recruitment of 2022. Continuous teacher development programs have been ongoing where teachers are retooled on various topics. Chair, I've annexed the list of the employed ECD teachers and also the continuous teacher development programs in Annex 5. Budgetary allocation and actual expenditure in the education sector since the 2022-23 financial year to date, specifying allocations for development and current votes for ECD, county vocational training, county bursaries and scholarships. Chair, I have also attached that. In 2022-23, the total was 2.3 billion, followed by 2 billion in the following year and 2.312 in 2024-25, both recurrent and development. In 2024-25, it was $500 million in development because we're building more classrooms. We need a serious shortage of classrooms in Nairobi. And the other numbers are there. And the current, of course, is the highest cost at 1.8 billion. And the actual expenditure is also attached. Chair, the list of beneficiaries and amount allocated for bursaries and scholarships to secondary education, VTCs, colleges, TVETs, or university education in financial year 22-23, 23-24, and 24-25 against the total fee requirement of the applicants. Chair, in the last financial year, we've had a challenge with the control of budget on the issue of bursaries and scholarships, and so there was no expenditure on that. In 22-23, there was 74,000 for. No, this cannot be right. Chair, I'll correct that table. On scholarships, it is 249.88 and 5100. On bursaries, the number is much higher because every term we issue bursaries worth 2.5 million, first term 2.5 million, second term, and 2 million third term. So that the number is actually 119,000.
Chair, maybe you can point which table he's referring to, because he says you change.
Number 8 on page 3.
Number 8, page 3.
Number 8 on the word bursary. And I asked him to correct. Because Chair, what happens in the bursaries?
There is a figure you have mentioned that is not on page 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I need to correct.
That's what she's looking for. Yes. We are looking for those other figures of 2 point something billion.
That is the table above, Chair, in terms of the total.
So he'll correct that and then before we finish it.
The other table is correct. It's this on number 8. The number of beneficiaries. Chair, let me explain. The number of checks can be this 69,433, but it's not the same beneficiary. When you issue the bursaries, it is based on those who come and apply and are given the word bursaries. And so many times you find that it is different. First term, these students might get, second term a different set, third term. But the scholarship is specific students who are supported from Form 1 to Form 4. And that's a specific number. And so currently the 5,100 of them on our scholarship. We've had that challenge. Yesterday we had a meeting with the Control of Budget as the Council of Governors. There are certain requirements the Control of Budget asked for counties, including an intergovernmental agreement. And the Control of Budget actually said only 4 counties have been able to comply. That is Nairobi, makwiny, Murang'a, and one other county. We have gazetted the intergovernmental agreement. We have notified the county assembly and we have sent a notification to the National Assembly on bursaries and scholarships. That was the criteria that the COB said every county must follow, because she sees it as a transfer of function, really, which, and as much as we may not agree, we have to comply with that. So those are the numbers. And Chair, just for illustration purposes, for the sake of the Senate, in the first 2 years that we've been able to provide bursaries and scholarships, the entire expenditure has been 1.88 billion. Contrasted with the last 10 years of Nairobi County government, which was 3 billion. In 10 years, the expenditure was 3 billion. In our first 2 years, it was 1.88 billion until the COB stopped that matter. But we budgeted it to proceed to go on. Number 9 is details when the last quality assessment of the city centers, both private and public, were conducted. Quality assessment of the city centers, Chair, is a continuous exercise. In the year 2025, the assessment has so far been done to 220 of these schools, the public schools, and 77 private pre-primary schools. We've attached samples of the quality assurance reports of both public and private. Chair, the next question is on details on the school feeding program, specifying nutrition components, feeding frequency, beneficiary centers, costs, sponsorship sources, and to analyze trends, enrollment trends since the start of the program. Chair, in a brief summary, this program that we run covers all our public schools, both pre-primary and primary schools. We have 316,000 beneficiaries of this program that get a meal each and every single day, Chair. The nutritional components of the school meal is carbohydrates, which is rice, protein sources of legumes, beans and green grams, vitamin A rich vegetables, other vegetable cabbages, fortified oil, iodized salt. Once in a while there is meat in the diet, and of course other condiments and fruits. Chair. The feeding frequency is every day. For the pre-primary, we start with the fortified porridge, the mid-morning snack, and then the hot lunch, which we must make sure is hot, Chair. That is a dish in a county meal. The beneficiary ECD centers is 31 public ECD centers. Cost per meal every school day. The cost to the parent is 5 shillings, Chair. The breakdown is that there's a county subsidy of 25, a sponsorship source of 25, and the parent does 5, Chair. The enrollment trend since the start of the program, Chair, in ECD, enrollment increased by 29%. We had 27,100 learners, and in 2023 moved to 35,000. In primary schools, the enrollment increased by 40%, from 213,000 thereabout to 316. It actually went up by 40% in our primary schools, Chair. And I can give more details, Chair, if required, around that program, because it has a developmental component as well as a recurrent component. We had to physically build the central kitchens. We've built 17 central kitchens across the county, each of them doing a minimum of 15,000 meals a day. And we entered into a contract with a partner who executes the program, Chair, that is Food for Education. And they also get support because they do a national program as well in other counties. But in other counties, it is mainly for porridge provision. The support provided to ECD and vocational training by non-state actors in the county, Chair, the NGOs like UNICEF, among others, that provide capacity strengthening support to ECD teachers and vocational training. We've annexed in Annex number 9 the UNICEF report of 2025. Submit copies of ECD schemes of service, Chair. We've submitted the curriculum designs, which has been asked for, national pre-primary policy, national pre-primary policy and standard guidelines of 2018, and the ECE Act of 2021, that is in Annex 10. The number and locations of child daycare centers in the county categorized by public and private ownership. Chair, this we will be able to provide. The mapping is ongoing. There are very, very many of these child care centers. We'll provide the requested data once we complete the mapping exercise, Chair. The number of public libraries established in the county, the operational status of each library, staffing levels and qualifications of personnel managing the libraries.
Just a moment, Governor.
Yes.
I think members, you agree that we first top at that, and then we can do the ECDE, then we can come to the libraries and PTCs. Members, please, are you ready to interrogate that information? Before Vice you go, there's a request by the Nairobi Senator. He's going for another meeting. If he can give us the information he has on ECD, then we can interrogate the document. And I've allowed him to do that.
Thank you, Chair, for your kind indulgence. Ordinarily, the members of the committee would have a first bite at it. But, Governor, there are some concerns when it comes to ECDs that I wanted you to address. Some of the information that you've given us here is a bit general, and we wanted to address the serious concerns. First of all, I had an engagement with residents of Roysambu Ward. You are aware of that engagement. Roysambu Ward, Honorable Chair, is one of the largest wards in terms of population, but that entire ward has no public ECD. So when I was there was a piece of land that I was shown, somewhere on Lumumba Drive, just off Lumumba Drive, that had allegedly been grabbed by some church that had been set aside for a public ECD. So, Governor, in terms of specific wards such as Roysambu that do not have an ECD center, it would be important for you to address what your government is doing in order to have the kids who live in Roysambu ward also have access to ECD facilities. Secondly, Honorable Chair, I have 4 wards here that have only one ECD, despite having very large populations. In Kayole Central, we have one at Bondeni. I think it was put together in 2024. And you know the population in that area, Governor. Mihango Ward in Embakasi East, we have only one ECD. And then Ruai in Kasarani, which is, I think, the largest ward, has only one center, Honorable Chair, making it very difficult for many kids to access. And then lastly, in Korogosho ward of Waraka, where we only have one public ECD center, which is very under-resourced and overcrowded. Governor, I'm sure, if you visit. Kayole Central, Mihango in Embakasi East, Ruai in Kasarani, which is the largest ward, and then Korogosho in Waraka. Then there are wards that have incomplete and under-resourced ECD centers, Honorable Chair, and these are the ones that I would want you to address again, Governor. In Jiru Ward, in Kasarani, the centers are incomplete. Some of them don't even have toilets and play areas. Madare North, in Waraka, this one we found that they have very high people to teacher ratios. Dandora RF4 in Embakasi North, which are in very poor condition, Governor. Then in Molem in Embakasi West, they have only one center that has no space. And I think also there was a concern about the lack of trained ECD teachers in Molem. So if those ones can be addressed, Honorable Chair, we want to see what the Governor's plan is in terms of addressing these concerns. So we have only 228 of those ECD centers across 85 wards, and we would ideally, Governor, wish to have 2 to 3 centers per ward based on the population density. And then we saw in your budget in 2024, you only allocated 116 million shillings to complete these told ones that I have mentioned in Jiru, in Madare North, in Dandora, and in Modem. So I think those are the concerns that we have. And then finally, Chair, on the school feeding program, this is a pet project of the Governor. He's usually very proud of it. But there is a conversation we have had, Governor, since the inception of this program. He knows that 70% of the school-going children in Nairobi are not actually in public schools. They are in informal schools, those ones that they call up-bed schools. The Governor gave an undertaking, I think it's been 2 years now, that feeding program would be extended to the informal schools, because what is essentially happening is that we are using that 1.8 billion shillings that he's talking about to feed only 30% of our school-going kids, and that is unfair. It is unfair, and most of these kids in these informal schools is not that they would not want to be in those public primary schools, but we simply don't have the space to feed all of those students there. So, Governor, where are we on the promise you made to extend the feeding program to the up-bed schools? I thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Senator. And since you are leaving, I'll request the governor to answer that, and then we can move on.
Thank you, Chair, for those questions from my senator. Chair, some of the information is not correct. I'll start with the issue of the wards without ECDs. Roysambu ward has Roysambu primary, which has an ECD. There is also, I've just seen over here, Marurui preschool is also in Roysambu ward. So there are actually two in that ward. Roysambu preschool and Marurui. Roysambu primary is not in Roysambu ward, but it's just right next. It's in Zimmerman ward, but it's right next. Some of our wards are so close to each other that not every ward has, but ideally you want every ward to have, an ECD, but they're really close. The wards that need the most attention are the vast wards, like Ruai. Ruai is the biggest ward, possibly actually it's the biggest ward in the county, And in Ruai ward, we have there are actually 6. There's Ruai primary, there's Gitwambu, there's Highway Manyata, there's Ngundu, Adi, and Kamulu. Those ones have ECD centers. I think what maybe the concern was being raised is standalone ECDs that may not exist.
That is what we are talking about.
Yeah. But these are within our primary schools. Yeah. In Miangu, we have Miangu Primary, we have Skyway, we have GSU, we have Utawala. That is next to that ward. What is this? Yikap as well. Kayole Central, we have 3. There is Imara Primary, Buneni in Mongaza. We also have one that, you see, some of these might not find themselves in the education budget. They're in the ward-based program budget. So I know in Kayole Central, for instance, we built a brand new full ECD through the ward-based program budget in that ward. And I think the response really should be amended to incorporate those ones that are built, not through the education budget per se, but also through the ward-based program. Many MCAs, or rather the ward committees, prioritize either adding classrooms or building standalone ECDs. But that piece of land that we're talking about in Roysambu is something that we're actually following up, even with the National Land Commission to get back. Chair, we did an exercise beginning 2022 of getting title deeds for our schools. It's been an ongoing discussion. Many of the schools, we had the original titles, actually around 100 of them, because all of these were county properties. The challenge that came with NLC was them saying which function is delivered in that school. Is it a national function or a county function? And they made an attempt to say that they will produce the titles and give them to the national government, which we opposed as Nairobi, because we have not transferred that asset to the national government. So even as the language we should have is not that we have ECD centers in primary schools. It is that we have primary schools in our ECD centers. Because the government entity that owns and builds that infrastructure is the county government, So that is where we have, we're still going back and forth, and there's a transition at NLC right now. But we secured most of those schools in terms of titles. I can give the list of those that we gave copies of the titles for them to know. We can be able to furnish this committee.
On the land in Lumumba Drive, what is the status now?
That is also within NLC. It's part of what we've asked for reservation.
Is the matter in court?
No, there's no court matter on that. There's no court matter. And Chair, we've actually been able to get more land than just that. 1,000 and something parcels of land that came to be owned by the county through surrender, through subdivisions. You do a subdivision, you do provision for public utilities. And so many of those now are at NLC for what we call reservation to the county government, so that we can have space to build more schools. It is true, there is a severe shortage of schools in Nairobi. And that's a historical problem, and a political problem. Since 1992, when multipartyism started, very few schools were built in the city. When the national government at that point lost grip of the county. And so you find, and I'm sure in many of your counties, Senator Kamar, when we were starting the school feeding program in Roysambu, the president was shocked that we had 210 public schools, and he gave the example when he was an MP of Eldoret North, he had 150 schools in one constituency, yet we have 17 constituencies, which is why we moved to build 5,000 classrooms. The national government through CDF doing 3,500 and the county government targeting to do 1,500 classrooms, because we must bring those children from the informal schools to public schools. These informal schools, or rather UPBET schools, and I've had a lot of interaction with the chair of UPBET and the teachers, or Wakono etc. They're not the ideal school for a child to be in. You know, those schools, we had a case of one collapsing and children dying. The infrastructure is not concrete. The school is a church on Sunday, on Monday it's a women's meeting, Tuesday it's karate. You know, it is, they're really not ideal, chair, for our children. And so we really need affirmative action for Nairobi County. And chair, we would appeal to the Senate also to consider a conditional grant to bring Nairobi to the level of other counties in terms of number of schools. You cannot have 210 schools with a population of 7 million. You know, and you can comparatively look at all counties. I know Senator Nyandarua has more than triple the number of schools I'm talking about, yet the population is a small fraction of the population we have. That is a challenge that Nairobi County has. It's a historical challenge, and so we're doing our part to increase the number of schools. Chair, our focus on this incomplete and under-resourced schools, Chair, is really budget constraints. It's really budget constraints. Chair, in the ideal situation, we would want to have, as we said, starting with the ECD, the ratio of 1:33 is too high. We need to come down, but we need more of our students in our public, schools. A child goes through the entire education system. When they get to the exams, they're in centers that are not recognized, and you find a scramble for them to actually go do exams in another different center. Chair, I think finally, maybe I can even point out Molem. It has not been written for me. Molem, there is actually ECD in the Superloaf Primary School. Korogosho.
Maybe, Governor, as you are pointing out these ECDs, is differentiate those schools with classes and those with ECD centers.
It depends on the definition of an ECD center. I can give you an example. If you go down the road to Kongoni Primary School in South Bay, the school is owned by us as the county. We built the school. The bulk of the classes are primary classes. Then you have 5 of them set aside to be ECD. Our center manager has an office. There is a playground. So it's a comprehensive school. It has ECD and it has the primary component.
Yeah, that we agree, but what we get in most of the counties we go to is the ECD centers. Actually, most of them are domiciled in schools, but are they set aside? And how many are we talking about? Okay, you could have more streams. So if you have a center with maybe 5, 6 classes and playground and an office, then that qualifies to be an ECD, and that is what maybe the senator is asking, because you find some people would feel that in their schools they don't have an ECD center because they have classes. So even for us, we would like to know in those schools how many are centers and how many are in classes.
And ask my
and also, Chair, so that he can answer together. Each ECD should be apart from the other, only 600 meters. Is that the same with Nairobi?
No, it's not possible in Nairobi.
Because that is the guideline that is there.
It is not possible. I think that works in counties with a lot of land. You know, in Nairobi, you can't get 600 meters from the primary school. So we've integrated them. You know, just because we have 696 square kilometers, and land is extremely expensive. And so that guideline, we're not able to comply with that. And so our schools, the standalone, is it 35? 30. The standalones, which are just purely ECD only, are 35. But the ones integrated are the 210, which are within still our infrastructure. which is why we've been able to do more development. We've built the kitchens in those schools, we do halls in those schools. We've had to remove many churches in these schools because we found people at long-term leases to build, churches in schools. And I'm a Christian, but I tell them that that is not how we should do it, because that infrastructure really is for our children. I can give you an example of Parklands Primary, where the space where we were to build more classrooms had been taken over by a church, and they were, and it wasn't that they come on Sunday only. They actually build physical infrastructure in the school during the week. And I called that pastor. I told him, look, we are all Christians, but this is not right.
Governor, I had to interrupt because I have to leave. Just I requested to address this on the stalled, on the ones that are stalled, on the ones that lack essential amenities, the toilets, the ones in Jiru, Mathare North, Dandora, Area 4, and Molem. Just those four so that I can leave.
Molem, there is super.
Because there's one center.
Yeah, in super.
I agree. So the question was if we have qualified or trained ECD teachers.
Oh yes. In all our schools, we are close to 1,000. They are qualified and they're trained. Chair, we've not done a recruitment for a while. You realize the quagmire we have also with the ratio, but we're going to do it. I think for all store projects, Chair, our intention is to finish. They're not just in schools. Whether it is roads, etc. It's a budgetary issue. It is just a revenue issue. But we intend, in this current budget that we have, we reduced new projects so to complete all store projects. And that's a question that was in the devolution committee. Chair, earlier the senator had brought up that issue. A lot of the cancellation, Senator, have been coming from the Senate, and I can table that, including last week. I was supposed to be Public Accounts Committee. I received a letter on Monday telling me not to come. Public Investment Committee, the same. The only one was devolution, and I spoke to also Senator Catherine Muma. That one we will come and answer that question. A very important thing has been raised by the senator, and I'll tell you, Senator, I agree with you fully. If it was up to me, every single child in Nairobi should be on dish in accounting. Every single child. Chair, we're feeding 316,000 children every day. We've built 17 central kitchens. Our partner has one big kitchen that has 60,000 meals. We've published regulations that now will allow even the public, because we'll set up a board, that has people from the private sector, the auditors, etc., whoever, so that it's owned by the public. It's really, it's mainly a resource question. So what we've done, Senator, we've mapped out all the informal schools closest to a public primary school. Because what we intend to do is that at lunchtime, if a child is in an upward school, in Mathare for instance, at lunchtime, they can go to Runo Primary, have lunch and go back to their school. Because you cannot deliver to all of those schools, but we're looking at the closest ones. To deliver it, we need to build an extra 68 kitchens to actually fill that capacity. Because as you've said, if you look at a third, compare 20 kitchens vis-a-vis the population, we're looking for support, monetary support to actually build those extra kitchens. It would be ideal. What I don't agree with is saying that we should not feed the ones we can, so that, because we can't feed all of the ones we can. Today, Chair, if you go to most parts of the city during a school day, you will not find the children would find during the day, street children, because they're in school because of food. These children don't even finish their food. They pack it and take it back home to their parents or to their siblings. It's a dire issue. In fact, my challenge now is what to do during the holidays. Because many parents are saying, yes, thank you, you cover them during the school days, but the holidays, we have a problem in some areas, Now, once these regulations are done, of course, we should depend on a reliable stream of resources. But using this watch, Chair, you will be able to adopt a child. People in the private sector can say, I'll feed a child for a month, I'll feed a child for a year. It is not sustainable, but it's the best that we can do for now. Chair, if we got additional resources, even a grant. In fact, if you look at the money, and I would like you as a committee to call NACONEC, the national body that deals with school feeding. Some of those budgets should be transferred to us, because you cannot compare the efficiency at all with what we do. So Senator, the plan is there. We're going to pilot in a few constituencies, mainly Mandari constituency, Waraka and Dagoretti North, which is where we have a lot of the upgrade schools. We'll pilot, but it's really a resource issue. It is not.
So we just address timelines, and then Governor wasn't there, an undertaking by the national government to match the money from the county in terms of a feeding program. Is that being done?
It is not. Chair, there was an undertaking to match shilling by shilling. We have invoiced the national government up to, because the last year was 800 million, we've actually updated the invoice. It's close to now 2 billion shillings that they need to match to the county. They have not done it. The intergovernmental agreement that we've signed, that is deposited, talks about a matching of shilling for shilling on the school feeding program. Not a cent has been sent to Nairobi County. We've been handling it ourselves. So, Chair, that is something also you can pick up. I have spoken to the CS, the current CS, Migos Ogamba. I had raised it to the former CS, what's his name? Machogu. And I've raised it at the highest levels of this government. So, Chair, also the Senate can assist us with that, so that they can honor their part of it.
Thank you, Senator Sifuna. Thank you so much. At least there was okay. I have a senator who came in. Please come on record. And Senator Sifuna, if you have any concerns that you want this committee to deal with, please forward them to us.
My name is John Kenya, Senator of Laikipia, member of this committee.
I should also say I'm a friend of the governor.
Chair. Okay, thank you. CS Senator Kavindu.
Yeah, Chair, mine is a suggestion to the governor. Before you build all those kitchens you want to build, how about transporting the food to the very needy children? Just transporting from one center to, ECD to another one. Before you build.
Chair, thank you. And I want to thank you because from Machakos County, we get a lot of our onions and tomatoes for this program. We get western grams from Busia County. We get, some provisions from Nyandarua, including cabbages. We get food from, it's an entire ecosystem, Chair. People just see the finished product, but the sourcing, the farmers, it's created 2,000 jobs. We have drivers and trucks, that do this work. It's a logistical issue. It is easier for the children to come closer to one center because we have one kitchen per sub-county, but we take the food to the serving stations in each school. Yeah. The informal schools you'll find have one has 70 children, another one has 40, another one has 60. So if you do that, you'll spend a whole day just trying to cover. But we've mapped out because it's a walking distance. Fortunately for us, the distances in the city are not too vast. And so they're close to those schools. But we'll be making an appeal to the Senate in terms of how you can actually support through a conditional grant to the county specifically for that. And the reason I'm saying this is that many counties might not need a feeding program because in many rural counties, food is available somehow, and there's a social fabric. There's community. There's your grandma, the aunties, the relatives. It is very hard. But in Nairobi, I keep saying, if you have no money, you will sleep hungry, and you actually have nowhere to sleep. You can die of hunger, and your neighbor is having a party. Unfortunately, the urban poverty aspect of it, cities need to have such a program. You need it in Nairobi. You need it in Mombasa. You need it in Kisumu, and the cities with even Nyeri town. Because the kind of poverty. I'm sure you not believe, Senator Chair, there are more children out of school in Nairobi than in any arid county in this country. There are more children out of school in Nairobi than Turkana, than Garissa, than West Pokot, than Wajir. But we only see the affluent parts of the city. So we look at all those ideas. We're open to any idea that can help us reach more of our children.
Thank you, Senator Muma.
Madam Chair, I just took, before she goes, there's something that the Governor mentioned about the national government matching a shilling for a shilling, was it a political statement or is a letter to that effect?
The shilling for shilling matching is in the intergovernmental agreement that was executed between ourselves and the Ministry of Education. So it is not a political statement. It is actually a written and documented thing. We have invoiced them thrice, and we will keep invoicing. They say the budgetary issues, but the current budget, where there's a provision for school feeding at the national level, can be used to actually support or rather honor the commitment that was made for the children of Nairobi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Your Excellency, I have a number of questions. Chair, long before I joined the Committee on Education, I had asked some questions last year to the Governor and the Ministry of Education. Your Excellency, my questions are premised on the fact that the Constitution of Kenya and its benefits are supposed to accrue to every citizen, and in this instance to every child, on an equitable basis. Your county is a city, and it's a city county and a county city, and its largest population, in my view, is within the informal settlements. I have looked at in my question last year, and in the question that you were asked by this committee, you were asked about policies that you have for your education sector. Your response is to give the national government policy. You don't have any. In fact, to my answer last year, you said that there was a policy underway on VTC, but you did not have any on ECD. My view is that you cannot implement a function effectively if you don't have a plan and a strategy around that function. So if we don't have a Nairobi County policy on early childhood education that contemplates what needs to be done in the informal settlements, we will never be able to deliver the right to education on an equitable basis or equal basis to children in informal settlements. So I would want to know, number one, what has stopped you from initiating a conversation to have an intergovernmental agreement, similar to the one you're saying about food, around the management of ECDE function within the schools? As you put it yourself, the property is yours, the schools were yours. So it's actually about you handing over a portion of that to national government, more than national government ceding anything to you. What has stopped you from having a collaborative agreement that enables you to take charge of the ECD function within the public schools? I want to give all the questions so that we move. Secondly, have you had any public participation concerns to listen to parents and learners in informal settlements to understand what they're going through in order to plan on how to provide for them? I know informal settlements are difficult to plan for, but under the NMS, we took hospitals to informal settlements because we were recognizing that the right to health accrues to them on an equal basis as others. So we must find a way of providing public services. What is it that Nairobi County will do 13 years after devolution to ensure that the children of those in informal settlements access education equally? I have looked at the numbers you gave me earlier, and you have, in my question, you had given me 227 ECD, public ECD centers. I think in the committee answer you have given 230, and I did ask that you give me a breakdown of how many of these public ECD facilities are located in informal settlements, and the breakdown you gave me brought me to 31 out of this lot. 31 are informal settlements, and yet the bulk of the population that requires this is in informal settlements. Chair, in my question, I actually asked for the population, and you gave me the figure of 762 persons aged below 6 who require ECD services. So my question is, if you don't have a policy, how is your department planning for these learners? Or are these learners just left to fate and left to the mothers? As you have put it, in your feeding program, some of those children carry the food home because the situation is dire. So if the kids are sharing, the little public food is there, what is happening to those families around accessing actual education? It is something I would want you to look at. Secondly, I would want to know whether you have grants or any part contribution from partners on the school feeding program, and if so, how much have you received in that regard? But linked to my first question, if you had policy or if you have it, I would want to know what are you deliberately planning around support to the informal settlements so that we move from a paltry 31 facilities to support them, because the rest are actually supporting the middle class and the upper middle class. You have made reference to care centers, and I think care centers makes sense for urban areas like Nairobi, could actually be useful facilities for purposes of supporting single mothers and families that need actually to go out and look for livelihoods. I would want to know whether you also have a policy around care centers, how that differs from ECD, and whether you are actually deploying any budgetary allocations towards these care centers. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Kenywa.
Okay, Madam Chair.
Governor, I think it's easier that way, isn't it?
Madam Chair, there was a big story about 1 million chapati, which you made every student or learner in Nairobi believe that they'll be eating chapati every other day. I don't know whether it was a political statement or it happens. Because looking at what you have provided, you give for feeding program, I'm not seeing anything like, or anything close to chapati. Secondly, I'm looking at the budget. Your recurrent budget is drastically reducing. What does that mean? Is it that maybe some of your employees are retiring? Or what's exactly the reason? Because it's your budget. If I look at the year 2022, recurrent was 2. The year 2023-2024 was 1.9. The year 2024-2025 was 1.8. So why the reduction? My third question is, Governor, how many ECDs have you built yourself in your term? And are they fully furnished? Because I had you explaining and I could not understand. You said the ECD centers in Nairobi, your explanation keep on differing. But it's standard, it is provided for in the policy. What is an ECD center? Would it change in Nairobi? You talked about enrollment. Because of the feeding program, the enrollment increased by 29%. Is this because of food, or is it an act of God? Because the population is increasing. It goes without saying, when the population increases, of course the enrollment will go up, whether you are feeding the children or not. So would you say with authority the 29% is caused by the feeding program? Again, did you inherit any of your teachers from the default, well, Nairobi was a city. Did you inherit the people from the default city council? Was it city? Nairobi was not city council. City council, yeah. Did you inherit from the city council? And lastly, Governor, you mentioned about the criteria for you to issue bursaries, and you mentioned you have complied, Muranga, Makwiny, okay. And the trend is very good because all these governors who have complied, they're all senators, which is very good. But you're missing the fourth one, who I don't know who he is. But what is the criteria? Because basically that's not your function, to be issuing bursary to secondary school and to colleges. What is the criteria, so that at least, because many of the governors who are coming here, they're telling us, who was telling us they have the pending bill, or I think some governor came here and told us having pending bills. Are you not reading from the same script so that they would know what they're supposed to do, so that they can be allowed to give bursary, which is not their function? But of course we understand when there's difference between what the law says and what is on the ground. Now, you know, my work is to skiza ground. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. I think I don't want to ask mine now so that you finish, but I want to only add one thing to what he's saying. You mentioned earlier, Governor, that this was transfer of functions, actually. The intergovernmental relations agreement that you have signed is a transfer function. Was money followed? Is there money that was allocated to this function because it was transferred? Because even if it is bursary, we are talking of the agreement you signed, I think had bursary in it, and then you also mentioned that there is a 1 shilling to 1 shilling agreement. Does that bring back the functions, or what does it mean to transfer the function? You finish those, then I will ask my questions.
I'll start with the last one. Chair, the intergovernmental agreement or a requirement of the control of budget. If you ask many of us as governors, we don't see the bursary or scholarship support as a function that is being transferred. It is social protection, you know, and social protection actually is a function of the county. Because the function of education is teaching the child, it is building those classrooms, it is paying teachers. We're not doing that. What we're doing is giving support. But the requirement was given by the control of budget, and we're just pragmatic that, okay, if the control of budget insists that we should do an intergovernmental agreement, all counties did the intergovernmental agreement and signed. Gazetting, 4 of us have gazetted them. Notification to the county assembly. So she's using Article 187. And so we're being pragmatic, saying, okay, if that is what you insist to do, because you can imagine, Chair, a child who is in Form 2 on our bursary, which we have committed to from Form 1 to Form 4, and suddenly the money is not there. Where does that child go? You know?
Yeah, we understand.
So we're just being pragmatic.
Yeah, we understand you. I want you so that you clarify that one answer.
But there's no money for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the issue of social protection.
Yeah.
You know, if you go for social protection, you'll do everything under social protection. But you have your own social protection even in health that is not sufficiently done. You have your social protection on these babies who are in formal sectors that is not done properly.
Yeah.
What as a committee we are interested in is the budget that has been given to a sector called education.
Yes.
And we are telling ourselves, what exactly must we do in that education sector? Must we be paying a university student who can go on strike if they don't get their right money? Because in fact the impact of that bursary to university did not stop the strikes. They went on strike because they didn't like the formula. They don't care who is going to do it, but they have said that we must go back to the original formula. So, although we have baptized it social protection, and you know this because you are a senator, we have baptized it social protection, we are affecting other sections, and we will be able to show you when we go to the VTCs what we are talking about. Of course, my biggest worry is what you mentioned, the numbers of your ECDE.
Yeah.
The numbers. This is Nairobi. How can we be having this? But I hope you'll be able to give us also the figures of the number of primary schools you have, because I don't believe the primary schools in Nairobi are 230.
They're 210 actually, not 30.
210,
Yes.
which is a disaster
It is.
to begin with.
Yeah.
So it means we must build double the number of CCDs in between.
So
let me allow you to finish it, then we'll come back.
Yes, so Chair, what we're doing, you know, that is a number that has been there since I was in class 2, you know. Now I'm the governor, I have to build, and that's what we're building. That's why we're building 5,000 classrooms in this city. We don't have to build, you see, Nairobi is not like many counties that have vast distances. You may not need a new school, but you can build more classrooms. You can go up. You know, you don't have to look, because land is extremely expensive in the city. If an acre of land is costing you 200 million shillings, that would be how many classrooms, you know? So what we're doing is adding more classrooms within the same centers and then employing more teachers. Where we have land, like the example I've given, where we have public surrenders, you know, of land, when you do a subdivision scheme, and 10% comes to the county, is where we can do new schools. Chair, on the intergovernmental agreement to fund or to allow counties to also issue scholarships and bursaries, and I'll give you the figures that I said were different. In 22-23, for instance, we gave bursaries to 134,127 children. 134,127 children. And scholarships to 4,988. Scholarships are those who've done well in class 8, and so you support them from Form 1 to Form 4. In 2023-24, it was 119,000 children. That's 500 million, 595 million shillings, and 5,100 scholarships, because now we onboarded a new Form 1 class. The reason why, Senator Kinywa, you're saying the recurrent budget went down, was once the controller of budget stopped the issuance of scholarships and bursaries, in a supplementary we removed it, because then you need that figure to balance something different. So that is why you see a sharp reduction in recurrent, because that is a recurrent expenditure. Development expenditure has been either constant or going up, because it includes construction of ECD centers, or construction of central kitchens, or just renovation of the facilities that we have. Chair, Nairobi needs that affirmative action in the number of schools it has. And I've explained the context, because I was born and I have grown up in this city. I know how the city was before multipartyism and how it became after. And many of you are older, including the senator who is my cousin, who I will not mention because it's very difficult. But she's my auntie. So, you know, because of age, I call her auntie. So, auntie senator, there's a reason why this infrastructure was not built. I'm sure that you've seen a clip one day, I even shed a tear, because that child needs a fair chance at life. No child chooses to be born in the slum or in the informal settlement. And the prerogative we have is to give them equality of opportunity. That a child born in Mathare can have the same shot at life as a child born in Karen. The equalization is education. And if the thing that is bringing them to school is that they will get a meal and they will get off the streets. Chair, when I drive in this city, during the holidays, I find kids, whether it is outside Lavington, those children who will find there, and they come to me, they know my car, and ask them, why are you guys out here? They say, you know, during holiday, there's no food. So we have to come look for the food. Chair, there's a young girl called Mildred, who, when we were doing scholarships last year, 2024, January, I met her. It was at Nairobi Milimani. She was wearing this watch. So I asked her, Mildred, you're getting a scholarship to go to Form 1. This watch is only for primaries. All my children wear this. This is a tab to it. This is what we use to verify that we have permission. This child is called Kavindo, and maybe there's this allergy or not. I can even tell how many children have gone to school today based on this. Yeah. So she was still wearing it. So I asked her, Mildred, why are you wearing this? And she said she's an orphan in Kangemi. She's been living with her grandmother. She had never gone to school for 3 days straight until, and so she was performing very badly. Until when we introduced this program in third term of 2023, is when she went to school for every day. She moved from the bottom of her class to top 10 in the city. And she got a chance to go to Loreto Convent, Limuru. So she said, because, yes, quoted your school. So she said, because of this, yeah, so she said, because of having this chance at an education, she will never remove it. So in fact now what I have to do is to keep refreshing her watch, because it's a symbol for her. The reason I wait, I don't eat in those schools, but it's a commitment. It reminds me of the commitment of these children. And Senator Kinywa, 29% is because of food. The population does not grow by 29%. The population of Nairobi grows by 4%, 3 to 4% annually. I was talking to the headmaster of Hospital Hill Primary School. The head teacher tells me they have a waiting list of 6,000 parents who want to bring children to that one school because of food. So yes, what we've done is a pilot. We've shown that it is possible, that it can be done consistently. Yeah, to date we've done 60 million meals. 60 million, meaning we fed the whole country plus 10 million. It is scalable. And now with these regulations, and we'll have the board, you will see your people, you know, whether it is your Safaricom CEO, the KPMG, who are not sitting in that board, and a secretariat. Nairobians can be able to support a child or sponsor a child and for it to be audited. So Chair, for the bursaries and the food, there has been no additional budgetary allocation, but our intergovernmental agreement on food specified a shilling for shilling matching, it just hasn't been done. And so the national government owes us that money. They owe us, and if you can help us get it, we'll be very happy. But it's a commitment made, it's on paper, it is signed. When I go to Senator Kinywa's questions, before I come to Senator Catherine Muma, the percentage growth is directly attributable. And I'll be very happy to table a report, Chair, of a study being done by the University of London, College of Hygiene and Health Sciences, on the health outcomes of these children. These children are much healthier. We're actually monitoring. Chair, every day we have labs. And I'd like, by the way, if this committee one day can come on a tour for me to showcase what this process is, from beginning to end, and we go to the schools. I would really...
We actually to counties after meeting the governor. We go to the counties. So we are coming.
Wonderful. That will be great. And so we test. We have our labs. Every single cauldron used, container used, every surface. When the food goes to school, the temperature is checked. If it is below a certain temperature, that food is not served. The container is sealed. The trucks are specialized. You know, it is a highly logistical exercise, and I thank God that it has been successful for the time it has been there. You know, I don't want to cause karma by saying anything, but we have had no single incident since 2023, that time to 2025. The question on the chapatis, it was humorous, but it's a real, the children really wanted it, and they really want it. And so the 1 million came because I was saying, look, if I feed 300,000 and each one takes 3, of course that comes to close to 1 million, but doesn't mean that you'll do that every single day. The machine that we have found does 6,000 to 8,000 a day. One has been paid for by the president. We are procuring the other one. And so some schools now can have it, it's not every day. Some schools can have today in one part of the city, we're in 6 barrels. Another barrel can have the next day or another day, but the children love it. School feeding cannot be how it was when we were kids, where you're given food that is boring, that you don't enjoy. It has to be nutritious, but also tasty and also exciting for the children. And our food is actually very, very tasty. It is nice. One day, if you walk down the road,
maybe Governor, as you're talking on that, so that I don't come back to it.
Yeah.
School feeding programs.
Yeah.
What is the relationship between build the kitchens and having a service provider?
So the service provider, Chair, runs the service. The infrastructure is ours. So we built 17 of these central kitchens. Each of them does between 15 to 20,000 meals. But the employees there, running the buses, sourcing the food, whether it is carrots, tomatoes, whatnot, is done by someone we have contracted called Food for Education. Because one, we saw that they have actually skin in the game, because they have a huge kitchen that already built. When I was in the Senate, you remember when we had the Mang Bills bill by Senator Eno. I spoke about what I saw in the Senate. Remember during COVID, there was a lot of vandalism that happened in schools. And so with friends of mine, I went to donate some desks in a few schools, in Olympic, in Dagoretti North, Katina Primary, and in kenyanYoutuber Primary. When I went to kenyanYoutuber Primary in these schools, normally when you go there, they'll say, oh, Senator Kinyua, we're happy to see you, we're excited. Then you ask the children, what do you want? They would say, we want a basketball, or they would say they want a school bus. But children started saying, we want food. And so I tried to bring an amendment into that bill to say that the national government must provide for school feeding by getting it from the farmers. Unfortunately, the bill didn't see light of day. I think it was reintroduced in this Senate. The number of counties that actually are contributing, to the program, I would love to list for you, including now. Unfortunately, Uasin Gishu is not benefiting because our product is maize, and we're not doing ugali yet. But some parts of the city, actually, the children want ugali. That is Westlands, Kangemi, and Kangware. The children are saying, I don't know why. But they're saying that. But I've just forgotten. There's something specific you've asked. Sorry?
No, I think you have answered that one.
Yeah.
It was a relationship between
so the infrastructure is ours.
And the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because some of these ideas, Governor, some of the ideas you give us, we also transmit to other governors.
Yeah.
So where we have something positive, we pick from you. Where we have something negative, we tell you what the others have done.
So I was explaining when I saw that issue in the Senate, and I went to those schools. I was invited to a school called Mukarara Primary by the MP for Dagoretti South. Mukarara Primary had one kitchen built by this, or rather run by this institution called Food for Education that I saw. And I said, we need to replicate it. So when we actually engaged them and tendered, because they have skin in the game, in industrial area, they have the biggest kitchen in Africa that does 60,000 meals. And they started in Ruiru. If you just open it up, many brokers and entrepreneurs will come and say, oh, I can also do feeding, I can do it. But you need somebody with the expertise and with the passion to do it. So that is the nexus. And they've also built 7 of their own kitchens themselves. They are funded. They've gotten funding from the Children Investment Foundation Fund. I've seen there's a question on external funding. SIF has funded them. The only external support we've gotten was by the French government. In 2024, was it 2024? When we went to, I'll confirm, I think 2024, when we had the climate summit, that was in 2023 or 2024, one of the French ministers who came, called Crisula, she was the Minister of State, asked me to take her to see this program, and I took her to Kibra. And when I took her to Kibira, she was so excited because she saw a school with 6,000 children and all of them eating. So she committed a grant of 1 million euros. But the 1 million euros was sent directly. We told them, support our partner. So that 1 million euros was sent to Food for Education, not to the county government of Nairobi. But Food for Education is audited on that. And the Auditor General has actually spoken to that. We've answered the questions. What that 1 million euros does is to support 10% of the children who can't afford the 5 shillings. It's hard to believe there are parents who can't afford that 5 shillings even, at 5 shillings per day. Such that there's no child who is taken out of the line for food. We cannot, there's no worse, I don't know how to use, lack of dignity than to be pulled out of a lunch line for a child. And I've told schools to never do that. If a child completely doesn't have it, I'll fund, I will pay. So normally it's 10%. We've seen in schools, it's almost like indigence in health. It's normally around 10% of those who can't afford completely. Chair, Senator Kinyua, I hope I've answered your concerns. On the current scholarships and bursaries, I've given the numbers that we've done. And just think about it. If in 10 years, Nairobi has had governors and the mayors, we've had almost 4 governors. We've had Governor Kidero, Sonko, Kananu, NMS. In 10 years, they did 3 billion. In 2 years, they did 2 billion. In 10 years, 3 billion. In 2 years, 1.88 to be precise, billion. It's just this last year that the control of budget stopped us. But I'm glad even after yesterday's meeting, we're going to resume. And it's good for me using this platform to tell the parents of Nairobi that our program is resuming for bursaries and scholarships. Let me come to Senator Muma's questions. Because
Madam Chair, just clarification, because he's so passionate about the issue of dish in a county. On page 4, on top of that page 4, I'm seeing the beneficiary ECD centers is that you want public ECD centers. Do you mean, because that one you're throwing me off balance, I'm seeing you have 230 public ECD centers. What does that mean? Does it mean that you want are the only...
The standalone. The question was the standalone. But it's actually 231, the ones which are within our primary schools.
No, I'm looking at beneficiary because I'm following up. It's about food.
Yeah.
Page 4 on top, we are discussing food, and the beneficiary is 31. Is it that the 31 are the ones that you're feeding only?
We are feeding 200 and how many? 230 schools. Then this must be an error. But remember, I explained it is only 31 ECD centers that are on their own, that are not within a primary school.
Oh, they were based on, I thought, I'm looking at it in continuation to food, so I thought you're giving.
Sorry about that. So it's actually 316,000 children, you know.
316,000 children are being fed.
Every day.
Yeah.
316,000.
Maybe so that I dropped my question which I had earlier, and you picked it when you talked of donor support.
Yeah.
Why would you give a donor to a service provider instead of controlling the funding yourself? Because this thing you call food for education, by the way, is very attractive to any donor.
It was the donor.
So long as they know it is ring-fenced for that purpose.
Yeah.
But if you start spreading, it means you'll be looking for donors, and your service providers will be looking for donors, and you will meet. You will meet on the table of the donor.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this because this is not the only donor you have. You can have Safaricom doing something, you can have all the others who are doing their social responsibility can also do the same. So why are we diverting it? I'm worried because in arid lands, some counties are giving free food 100%. And we have met governors here who give free food 100% to children in ECD. The reason they have partners. The minute the partners think they are giving money to a service provider, they will run away from even the Nairobi good thing.
Chair, now that we have the regulations, they can provide for that direct funding to us. That time there were no regulations. We've now published those regulations. And at that point, it was the funders, wish to actually support this NGO. You see, the service provider is not like a vendor; it's actually an NGO, that attracts such funding. Now that we have regulations, all support to Dishina County will be coming to the county government. Chair, that will be neater, and I agree with your suggestion. It will actually be neater and easier for us to account for it, and to say for sure this amount has been used in this manner. Chair, that one I take your advice.
What to Muma's question, please?
So yes, so Senator Anti, number one. It is.
Governor, you're out of order.
Sorry. Anyway, let me go to the questions. The education policy, generally, if you look at the fourth schedule of the Constitution, general education policy is domiciled with the ministry, with the national government, and counties implemented. For informal, what is that? What we have in terms of legislative intervention for the city, or rather our framework, one, we have Childcare Facilities Act that we've actually done in Nairobi to regulate that space. We have developed regulations then to operationalize that law, and we can be able to submit that. Actually, public participation around that is going on. We are trying to look at which framework we can have, because we've had formal meetings with these APBET schools and with the ministry. And we're saying that, look, there needs to be, and I agree, Senator Muma, there needs to be a specific policy around this APBET. APBET means alternative provision of basic education and training. They have come up as a result of government not performing or not delivering to the people and not providing. If you go to the ministry says they don't recognize them. They don't recognize them. You cannot do an exam in that upgrade school. And so I agree on the need for specific policy around the informal upgrade schools, but the correlation of the number of schools in the informal settlements may not necessarily reflect how many of the children in informal settlements are in our schools. Because you find in every informal settlement in Nairobi, neighbors are semi-affluent or affluent area. So for instance, if you go to Mutaiga Primary School, there's no child from Mutaiga. They are from Madari. You know, if you go to in Runda, what school is in Runda? Cheleta. It's not a child from Runda per se in that school, but it's a child from Igidogoro in that school. So the number doesn't necessarily directly reflect on who is in the schools. It's just where the schools were built. But the schools are very close. Every estate in this city that is affluent or semi-affluent has an informal settlement next to it. And so the children of the workers of the houses in Karen or in Runda or in whatnot are the ones going to those schools. Now, the problem is land tenure in the informal settlements in terms of being able to find a space to build. So where we have space to increase the capacity or to build more schools, you'll find, for instance, Westlands Primary. The children in Westlands Primary may not be the children from the houses in Westlands. They're from Kangemi, they're from Deep Sea, informal settlement next to Westlands Primary. If you go to my former school, Aga Khan Primary, now the children at Aga Khan Primary are from Deep Sea and High Ridge. They're not the Asians that we went to school with in the same school. So that is the disconnect, or rather the dichotomy that we have in the city. We really must build more classrooms. If there's any program that I've seen the president doing that of course I support most of his programs, but one that I feel speaks to the hearts of parents, it is building classrooms in Nairobi. Every MP got around 58 million shillings through CDF to do 33 classrooms in the city. When that 1 billion was introduced and they were doing 1 billion per year, the National Assembly, other countries said, why is it only for Nairobi? The president himself intervened and said, no, this city has that need for the schools. And it's been done year on year, and we're also doing our bit as a county government. So I'm really open to engage, because we've had public participation sessions with the people in the informal settlements. I go there sometimes, and just listen. And my team does it. In fact, some we do there, some we bring them to Charter Hall when we want a more structured meeting with organizations. We don't do it in the informal settlement, we bring them. Because if you go there, then the discussion moves from what you've gone to discuss on education and becomes Omaji and there are many other, pressing needs at the same time. But I would want us to, and I would request this House, because the Senate sits at a place of such great authority and responsibility, that if the Senate, on its own motion, together with educationists, to bring people from different sectors, to come and help us create either policy intervention around what do we do with informal settlements. Because I've said the prerogative we have as senators, and I still consider myself a senator, because I've been in the Senate longer than I've been a governor, is equalization of opportunities. If you equalize opportunities, this country will be good. If Kenya knows that his child has the same chance in Laikipia to be whatever he wants to be as a child in Kisumu or in Nairobi, we won't even care who is the president. Every Kenyan will be okay. On the issue on...
Chair, just allow me to do a follow-up on that.
Yeah.
I happen to be on the Nairobi delegation, much as Kisumu, not Kisumu Rural, Kisumu Nyakach. I would want us to take the governor seriously on that point. And Governor, I am happy with whoever else as the committee may plan, for us as this committee to sit with you, if you allow, and your technical team, for us to be able to assist on what it will look like to have a county policy, particularly around the informal settlements. They are also coming up in cities like Kisumu and Mombasa. I think it would help to resolve a big issue, not just for Nairobi, but for the country. I would be happy as a human rights person and a member of this committee, Chair, with your permission later, to be able to move on.
I'll be very happy to share. We had a task force that was done in a task force report 2014, thereabout, by the first county government, that of course needs updating, but really started looking at that discussion. at those issues. I know Humphrey Watanga was there, the now KRA boss. It would be good to update it and see, okay, practically then what does that mean in terms of financing, in terms of the grants, in terms of even looking for external support, in terms of what moves from the ministry to cities that have informal settlements. Because it's a big problem. And remember, you will not solve the issue because you create a vicious cycle. A child who is born in that environment and then does not go to school properly and then grows up and also then has a child, you're just creating a vicious cycle that replicates in our cities. And it's a ticking time bomb, Chair.
Governor, there's an organization which we met some days back, African Population Health and Research Center, which have done a lot of research on that area, and they say they are working with the county government of Nairobi. So I don't know whether you are aware of that.
I know HRC, we're doing a lot of policy work with them. Additionally to that, by the way, you know, when you talk about early childhood, many people think early childhood is just about school. The interventions needed for children start from conception. And we're working with Big Win Philanthropies together with the HRC to look at the nutrition of the mother, the training of the parental training during pregnancy. And it's a program that started, you know, it's been done in Addis Ababa, and I've seen how they've done it. Facilities for children to play, because what happens between age 0 and 2 becomes irreversible in many cases, even if you do now the classrooms at ACD. So it's a very comprehensive program that we are working on with HRC and Big Win Philanthropies that starts at the point of conception, because you see, as a county, we're also handling health, you know, so we are the hospital. So once we've found a mother is pregnant, how do we start working on that child? From the nutrition the mother has, the training. In fact, what happened in Addis is very beautiful, that men were told that the child can hear. So when men were told the child can hear, they stopped shouting at their wives and stopped fighting, and were told to start singing. And so they were singing in the house for their spouses, because they're told that affects the child's mental development. So it's a program that I would love to present to you, because one aspect of it also is playgrounds in our estates. Swings and slides and monkey bars and sand pits. We're now doing 80 of them, courtesy of the grant that we've gotten through that program. So I think this is a discussion that we need to have very holistically. We can even do either some symposium, you know, really, between the counties with informal settlements, led by the Senate. You can bring different stakeholders, including this HRC, UNICEF as well, has quite interesting programs. But these programs have never been brought together in a wholesome manner that only the Senate can do. You have more convening power than any county on its own, you know. So I'd really, please, let's follow that up, Chair.
I think you maybe before you continue, there's a senator who has not come on record.
Thank you, Chair. Kamau Moranko, member of this committee.
Thank you. Governor, you must appreciate that since the meeting moved from 9 to 10, there are so many other meetings going on, and that's why members have to move to go and give quorum in other meetings.
And Chair, I'm actually informed that I'm being waited for in another committee.
Of health. I've also been told that.
Health yielded. I was invited to health, education, and energy on the issue of public utilities and way leaves. You know, we had an issue on people. Yeah. So
let's rush you that was, and I think members will appreciate that since we got this document today, I think we might need a workshop so that we can look at these documents before we do our oversight in Nairobi County. Thank you. Yes. Oh, he has not finished.
I think, Chair, for now, because the last question really came from Senator Muma on the policy and overall approach to informal settlements, and I've listed what we have and my suggestion of what we can do to enrich that.
Thank you, and you know that is a subject very close to Muma's heart, yes. And she has done a lot of research around that. So I think, Muma, what I would suggest is if you have any subsidiary questions, please let's forward them to the governor, to be answered later, and then
just allow me to say that, Governor, as a former senator or a senator, I expect on the matters of bursary, you would be helping the COG to move in the right direction. There is no function called social protection for counties. social protection is like social welfare, security, and social protection includes housing, health, education. So we cannot say education for purposes of governance will become social protection in order for you to implement. So for those of you who are, let us maintain that national government must put enough money for those bursaries, and if you want to do it, you must be given that money as a conditional grant.
I agree completely.
Thank you, Senator Muma. Let's move, please. Vice Chair, you are done. You are led first, Vice Chair.
Okay, let me start from where Senator Muma stopped, because that was one of the key issues. We wanted governors to be in one understanding with us. By the way, we are with the control of budget. We are the ones who emboldened them when they came before us. And we said governors are giving bursaries instead of taking care of our little babies. And now you can see what the damage it has done. In fact, I was looking at your budget, Governor, and I was telling myself, you have said 2024-2025, there is no bursary that was given. And you are not including your VTCs. It means VTCs have never enjoyed anything, but hold that question when we reach the VTC. You will tell us how you are funding your VTCs, because some counties are giving free VTCs. You just go in and start welding and go back home. So we want to know why that money was not attractive enough for the functions in Schedule 4. And we have been pushing that so much, because we would like governors to start paying attention to Schedule 4. Governor, a few small questions, because I've asked a number of questions as I interjected. One is just a clarification. We are not against primary schools hosting ECDs. In fact, Nairobi, you said, is opposite, and I'm happy with that. Yeah, they are hosting primary schools. But while we are hosting primary schools, there is a policy here that tells you the acreage that you must confine your primary school. And that, in fact, in the city, it is about a quarter of an acre.
3 acres.
No, in this policy here of 2017, it gives you acreage, and that acreage, I hope you have the policy of 2017, and if you look at the policy of 2017, Article 1.1, pre-primary 1.1, if you can show the governor, we have urban areas, in fact it's less than a quarter, it is 0.125 acres. And then in rural high schools, the recommended acreage is a quarter, rural high density. And then rural low density is half an acre. What we are looking for is fencing off. Governor, we have gone to counties where governors have built beautiful toilets for the small kids, but in the primary school. So class 8 take over the toilets. And these little babies do their things before they reach there. So it is very important that we isolate them. I want to thank you because of the fact that you are focusing so much on how the child can be equalized at that level. And yours is rural and urban. You have also those slums which you must take care of. So I think I commend you for that. So we are not against primary schools hosting or ECDs hosting. Just let's make sure that they're isolated, they're fenced off, their play area is so attractive. And we look forward to see their play area. I was looking for the swings and the slides and whatever. Now, those ones are very attractive to class 4, even if they are ECD properties. They will jump over fences to go and play. So you must fence them and have an exclusive area for them, and that is also a comment. The other comment that I had was, I was actually very worried when I saw private schools are more than public schools. Then I said, okay, we have arrived in Nairobi, all of us, so we are building nursery schools to take care of middle class and above, so that should not worry us. Your ratio 1:33 is not that bad, but the population, I'm in shock. What is the population of students who are out of school? How many children don't go to ECD? In my village where I was born, 1966 we started going to nursery. It means in Nairobi, we have children who have never stepped in nursery. And since they overgrow at age 7, you send them to primary school. Do you have a figure? Have you done your estimate? Just put that one down, because we want you to summarize the last question since you are in a hurry. And the cost of building an ECD center, Governor, 18 million. This is the highest we have ever had. Is it that Nairobi is too expensive to build anything? Because we were accusing somebody this week that they're using 4.9 to build 2 classrooms and a small kitchen and one washroom. It was one, oh yeah, that one was one classroom. One classroom, an office, and whatever was going to 4.9. Now this one is, and that was the highest for us. So 18 million. The costs seem to be an issue that you need to pay attention to. If you're using public works, I know we discussed public works when you were senator, and we are saying public works give us figures that are outrageous. It's like they don't belong to the same country. And in fact, the National Assembly blocked them from giving figures. Even when I was a member of parliament myself, I would get their figures, white them out, and go for labor only. And when I went for labor only, I was using a quarter of what they were telling us. So sometimes some of these things called tenders can let us down. Transfer functions you have mentioned, was expensive. Why not spend in ECD VTCs? You will give us that one when we reach there. I think I'll leave it at that, Chair, so that we can quickly run through the VTCs.
Please do the furniture as you finish. And I'm told, the governor, that Governor Natembea has gone to energy, that they will inform us when he's through. So, can do the furniture.
Now, I was looking at the furniture. I've been tracking the furniture. Can your CEC tell us the page? Where is the classroom? The photos? 113.
As you're looking for the picture, I was just going to tell Governor, please compare the affordable housing cost in Nairobi for a 3-bedroom and what your people are telling you about 3 classrooms.
Okay, Governor, if you look at the photos of your children, beautiful, bright colors, which is what the police even asked for, but the sitting arrangement.
Which page?
Actually, if you look at it, 110. It is even earlier, even from 110, 111. You start from 108. The children are there. I think that's ones are in class. They are not eating. Then you go to 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, up to 114. Governor, we have been looking at this, and I remember the first Council of Governors designed a table for children. And we said we don't want more than 6 children around a table. It's easier for the teacher and it's easier for understanding. It's easier when you want to do play groups, and it's easier when you want to change from one subject to the other, whether they are molding or they are doing whatever. But we can see that yours, most of them are rectangular. See, is that a rectangle? Or square?
The trapezium tables.
Trapezium.
So that when they're brought together, it looks like an octagon.
Oh, so you have it.
So those are, see, that is 2 trapeziums.
Yes.
Create an octagon.
So you have this, where you have 2 brought together, then you have 6.
Yes.
So they're actually a 6-seater.
It's actually a 6-seater.
Not 6-seater, it's 6-sided, but
6-sided. Yeah.
Very many kids.
I think there's one
If it's a 6-seater, then you've got it.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a 6-seater. When you put the 2 together, then you have every child, you know, on their own space.
Yeah.
This we are calling it hexagonal because it should, the sizes, the areas.
Right, actually.
Yeah, so it's the same.
Page 105 and 103. I think 104 is where that school, they have not put them properly. Because the same trapezium is now put laterally, it's straight.
But this one is hosting 2 kids per side.
Yeah. That one is not right. But if you look at 103, if you look at 105, each child has their
Actually, I can see one in 105.
There's just one naughty child.
So if we can just ensure in our inspection that there's 6 children per per table, then we are okay. Then maybe the crowding is because all of them came to one room or something for the photo
There's
session.
no cameras.
For the photo session.
Right,
If that's the case, then I congratulate you like I congratulated them.
Then maybe the question would be, how many schools have been equipped?
Are they all? So, have you changed furniture for all your schools? So that we know that that's what we'll see when we come out.
I know just
you.
recently we did 8,000 new trapezium tables and of course more chairs, because 8,000 then covers for 3 children, covering 24,000. There's been an improvement. We can give the details. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that is 80%, around 80% covered. The modern trapezium.
Okay.
Is hexagon, what you call hexagon.
Hexagonal.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the last one was the toilets also. Have you modernized it the same?
Yeah, we are working on
Baby toilets. We are now
shorter
talking about
ones.
baby toilets.
Yeah, the baby toilets.
Yeah.
Some schools, it was really terrible, you know. And some of these schools, by the way, and I hope you can help us look for Nairobians. If you see the people who went to those schools, like Currency Primary School, the state it was in, yet the big heavyweights in this country, corporate sector, went to those schools. They need to help us. But we've improved quite a number. I can give.
That's why I was saying, don't give away your donors to service provider.
They should come to us.
Have a fund, build a fund yourself, Nairobi feeding program and school improvement program, and then you can throw it to these MDs.
And that's why to go back to the school they went to, you know, and help support. But I must also thank our members of parliament. Some of them, through the SDF, have actually also supported some infrastructure for especially and toilets. But what we've done, Chair, additionally using one of our companies that the county owns, Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, we've now done fresh ablution blocks in quite a number of these schools. Through Nairobi Water and Company, boreholes, I am commissioning another 6 in the next few days that have been done through Nairobi Water. Especially in schools where you have Muslim community, they have had a big challenge with the issue of these ablution facilities for obvious reasons. And Chair, we've done an affirmative action for those areas. So I'd be very happy to share that those details further with you.
Thank you. Kavindu, please. Just one for Kavindu and then I come back to you, please. I know you're going to give quorum elsewhere, but please.
Hey, we've been waiting for long. Anyway, my question goes to page 4, where we came from, about the feeding program. The county subsidy is 25, parents 5, and Governor, you are giving out your partners. How much does the partners contribute to this feeding program? Because you are contributing 25, parents 5. And I'm not seeing anything that is being contributed by the partners, and yet you have several partners for the feeding program. And how many of the let me come back for that. Let me get it and then come back.
Okay. Morango, please, Senator.
Asante sana mwenyekiti. Gavana, swali yangu moja. Bila kusema nilitembelea nani, lakini nilikuwa jela la Lang'ata women, na nikapata pia shule pale ya chekechea haikuwa nzuri sana, hakuna ukuta, wanasema pia wapati lishe. Nataka kujua Gavana, kama uko na mpango wote kuhakikisha wale watoto wamezaliwa pale pia kama kuna nafasi ya masomo. Asante.
Yeah, I've got it now. Through you, Chair, how many public libraries have the county government under your lead has built right now? And yeah.
Thank you. Senator, we've not come to libraries. We said we first finish with ECD and then it can be answered. So let us finish with ECD and then for clarity and then we can come back to libraries, please.
Labda nianze na sorry?
The feeding program.
Yeah, the subsidy. Let me start with Senator Murango's. Asante sana. Senator Mua will tell you that that nursery you're talking about, I attended it on and off in Langata Women's Prison, because my mom used to be an officer. So on the days I'd been naughty and refused to go to my school, I'd go to that same nursery, you know, and it's something I'm going to look at. I'll take it up. Kuangalia hali yake kuhakikisha kwamba mimi ni alumni wa hiyo jela.
Thank you, Governor. Next.
Nitaangalia the subsidy. I think what we did indicate the cost of the meal, because the county does 25 shillings, the parent 5 shillings, and then the supporters altogether 15 shillings. Because the actual cost of the meal should be around 40 to 45 shillings. Of course, we know the prices of commodities change based on the season. It's around 40 to 45. We could have done it free, but we chose not to make it free. The parents have also some pride that they have topped up that 5 shillings and that they're part of it. If you make it completely free, what I have come to see in my experience, people will say, hata si tamu, chumvi ni mingi. The complaints will be much more. But you can actually afford to make it completely. That's why no child is removed. But the parents, the pride they have, when I meet them in petrol stations or where it is, and they say, I have loaded, look at my app, I have loaded 100 shillings. That will cover my child, my 3 children for X number of days. They have so much pride that they're also contributing. You cannot take that away from the parents. So it is 25, 15, and 5. The 15 is by Children Investment Foundation Fund, SIF.
I was just wondering why it's not on the list like the rest of them.
That must be an oversight. But also, that is what goes directly to the food for education. That doesn't come to the county. The 15 goes to food for education, as we just do the 25, which they invoice us, because they are like a service provider.
That is where Chair is telling you.
I agree with the Chair.
Don't give out the partners who come directly to you, because then you'll be able to account for whatever they give. Now you cannot account for it.
And especially, though they're audited, and they provide those reports. But what I'm grappling with now is really the holidays. The parents are telling me this is a long holiday, for instance, almost 2 months, and the children are at home. What do we do? So I'm figuring out a way that we will keep some of the kitchens running. Maybe not all 17 because of where they are, but many of them. For instance, if you look at the Great North Kitchen, it is in Mudangari Primary. Mudangari Primary is within a very affluent estate in Lavington, but all the children are from Kawangware, you know, and so in some cases you can just keep some kitchens going, but let's take food to places where, you know, to the informal settlements. That is what I'm grappling with right now.
Governor, are there children who are unable to pay completely?
Yeah.
What happens to them?
We pay for them. 10% of the children cannot pay at all, and it varies. The parent struggles, you find, because when you look at this wallet, you look at the child's wallet, you'll find that maybe the parent last topped up a week ago, and the child is in school. The child doesn't know that they have not been paid for, because they can't see. You know, it is not like giving the child cash to go into school. So what we've told the center managers and the teachers, to note those specific children, we cover for them completely. But no child is to ever be removed from a school lunch line. That is the policy, and that is our position as a county.
Governor, as you say that, what are you then doing to these other schools? Because you are giving them to 31, because this program has become very popular. Is it called Dish in a County? Yes, it's become very popular. I think kids all over are talking about it. Those who are in school, they go telling the others that I'm in this school where they're being given food, and you're giving to 31 schools as opposed to your 230 public schools. Can you give hope to the others?
It is not 31, that was an error. It is all the schools.
Okay,
all public schools.
Okay.
The only challenge we had, Chair, was the schools in the military barracks. And I spoke to the Chief of Defense Forces, General Kahariri. He has now given us access. And the AP schools, like Utawala, and those in the police lines. Just those. But
I'm happy, Governor, to hear that. That was worrying me because that thing has become very popular. And I think most of the point they see you dish in a county. Thank you.
Chair, allow me to go just back, a very important one. It will be remiss of us not to raise. You talked about the ward-based budgets.
Yes.
Now, I think we cannot have functions that are treated as functions of MCS. That's how we get into the trap of the unconstitutional NGCDF. My view, or I believe the committee would support me on this, if you have ward-based programs, they still must be accounted for per department. So the Department for Education cannot tell us they don't know how many ECDs have been developed in the wards under the ward-based budget. There is nothing like that in the Constitution. It is an administrative arrangement to have MCS to have a say on the kind of projects they want, but responsibility still lies with you as the executive to be able to account for those projects and place them within the your county departments.
I think you touch on that one as whether that is the position, but the last one we had was I heard was about water. When we talk of an ECD center, we are talking of water tanks where people are relying on rainfall. Now you have boreholes. Are those boreholes are they tested so that we are sure of the water? Because Nairobi is fluctuating. Some areas boreholes cannot be done. And do we have water tanks then running for hand washing and so forth? Or how is that part of the ECD center?
Generally, and it's good to give context, Nairobi is water scarce as a city. And in the last 3 years, we worked hard to reduce that deficit. Nairobi as a county had only 4 sources of water. Yeah. Kikuyu Springs, that was built in 1908, Ruiru Dam, 1928, Sasumwa in Nyandarua County, close to my friend, which was built in 1958, that gives us 60 million liters a day, and then Nakaine Dam from 1994 to 1997. Those are the only sources. And that Nakaine was providing 84% of the water in Nairobi. Now, in totality, if you add all those sources of water, it was coming to 525.6 million liters daily. Yet the demand in Nairobi, when I got in, was 870 million liters per day. So the first thing we had to do was to increase the quantity, just pass the quantity of water coming into the city, which we've successfully done by completing Northern Collector 1, which has provided an additional 140 million liters of water in the city. There are areas now that never had water, that have water. If any of you lives in Karen, or Ngando, or Iruta, Langata now is getting water, and there's a pipeline. If you drive on Langata Road towards Galleria, you will see on the side of the road my contractors now doing a line through Bomas, that for the first time, Langata, where we've grown up with no water at all, will be receiving through gravity, because the line that was serving Langata goes through Kibra and had a lot of infiltration, and of course it is going upstream. So we have to do one line through Kumbukarumba Road, which is this link road, Langata link road, coming all the way from Old Odume Road, from our Kabete reservoir. So generally the quantity has gone up. I am targeting another 220 million liters of water, where we've already gotten financing. Unfortunately, which the Senate needs to help us, counties should be allowed to get this directly, because we can pay, all these 4 sources we paid for. The 220 million liters of water, $100 million is supposed to do 2 things. Number one, Northern Collector 2, which is to give us 180 million liters additionally, and Maragua 4. Maragua 4 is also to give us, now combined with them, give us 200. And then in Ngedu water treatment plant, which we have in Gatundu North, we lose 30 million liters daily through the backwash filtration system. So our engineers designed a reverse backwash. When we filter the water, it goes into the environment. Now we're going to get it back. So it is possible for us to now completely fill the gap. Through that program, it has been stuck at the National Treasury and the Ministry of Water, because we cannot get the financing directly. Yet the Korean government has expressed interest to give us that money over a long time concessional period. So what we've had to do is to intervene in the areas where the water hasn't gone up, because the 140 has helped in areas like Utawala, in areas like Mihango, these areas of Langata and Karen from the Kabete line. We've done one from Kiambu Institute of Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology, coming through Roysambu, Zimmerman, down all the way to Embakasi Garrison, and so Kayole has increased water. So you find areas that were getting water once a week now getting thrice a week. What we're advocating for is storage in the schools. So in many of the schools, I've had to intervene by doing boreholes on the west of Nairobi. In the east of Nairobi, the NMS made a mistake of digging 100 boreholes. Yet, the fluoride amount in the east of Nairobi, the World Health Organization documentation is 1.5 parts per million. You find some at 6 ppm, 5 ppm, and you know what fluoride does to the teeth and to the bones. They become brittle to the children. So many of those were either stopping them or decommissioning them, because the only way you can sort it out is to do dilution, because you cannot do reverse osmosis, it's too expensive. So that's why you find, for instance, if you go to Kibra Primary School today, you'll find there's a new borehole that is working, where we've been able to test like Umoja 1 Primary and the fluoride level is okay. We've commissioned and the borehole is actually done. And so I'm opening another 6 of them. So we keep doing that through Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company. If I get support from this house and access the $100 million, the story of water shortage will be done. Because now what you can do when you have at least the correct pressure of water is to use what we call SCADA technology, which from my phone I'll be able to see where somebody has cut off our line to fill in the water tankers. But until you've filled you see, it's like a pipe, you know, it's not like it's a pipe. If the water is just here and you have the SCADA technology, it will measure air, it will measure other things. So you see high non-revenue water figures. But until you've actually filled the entire, radius or diameter of the pipe, then you can be able to use that what we call SCADA technology, which is the next step that we're going to. So we have plans to make sure all the schools, at least for the children, that there is water that is available throughout. There was a problem with the water bills in these schools. You can imagine many schools were not able to pay for their water, so the county comes and intervenes. Because in as much as Nairobi Water is our company, fully owned by the county government, we have to make sure that it stays afloat. So the county government intervenes on behalf.
You have answered. I think that's good.
Thank you.
Just need some clarification, Chair. You are saying that you're not allowed to do PPP with the Korean government or agency. Yet in the previous Water Amendment Act that we did, we allowed counties to do PPPs with county governments. The only thing that we were against was for the National Water Works agencies to do PPPs, and then they sell water to counties to the last mile, denying now the water companies to sell the water.
That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. They're trying to charge us for Northern One. But what with the Korean government is not a PPP, it's actually a loan. You know, it's a loan. If you look at my Nairobi Water Company, we found it at 8 billion in terms of revenue. This last year we hit 12 point something billion in terms of revenue. It is actually able to pay those loans. But you see, the PFM limits our ability to borrow as subnational entities. That is the only challenge. Such that you can have all that agreement, we've sat down, you see me sometimes out of the country, we agree, I have to come back to Treasury, or I have to come back to the ministry, they take us around. The last example I'll give you, because you're senators, you can help me. Nairobi has a problem with transport and transit and traffic jams. We got 314 euros from the French Development Agency, European Investment Bank, 74 million euros to do line 3 of the BRT. To get cabinet approval took me 2 years, from December 2022 to December 2024, to get cabinet approval. After getting a cabinet approval, December last year, to date, the financing request has not gone out, because the national government may not see it as a priority, but we see it as a priority, yet we cannot get the borrowing. You know, some of these things in devolution, the Senate must come in very strongly to support.
Thank you. I think you've put it right. Senate must come in. Let's have a way of having a joint meeting to discuss this. Get your proposal out, talk to your colleague governors, let's get the proposal out, and then senators can go through and see what kind of areas we should cover. I wanted us to stop there and go to VTCs quickly, because there are only 4 questions. I think there's 1 question on libraries and 14, and then VTCs.